Doctors worry that her husband shares her beliefs and could influence the president, who already appears to be predisposed against vaccines. Here's a 2014 tweet from Trump. Healthy young child goes to doctor, gets pumped with massive shot of many vaccines, doesn't feel good and changes. Autism, many such cases. Again, flat out wrong. Study after study has debunked that belief. The fact is, vaccines do not cause autism.
I'm getting so tired of hearing that statement. Vaccines do not cause autism. It's been debunked. You know what's being debunked? That bumper sticker slogan, Elizabeth Cohen. You are so full of it. You are capable of reading. You know where the studies are. You know who the Institute of Medicine is. Come on. You know you're lying. You know that the fact that you're being funded by the pharmaceutical industry, that Merck is one of the primary donors of CNN, is why you are spewing that lie on us and blaming Darla Shine for it. But let's go through it. I'm going to go through this. I know it's ad nauseum. I know I talk about this all the time, but this is their biggest argument, because the biggest concern in parents is autism, and if we can get you to believe that vaccines don't cause autism, then we are through this nightmare of truth-seeking. But here's the point. Let's look at the CDC, because this is where she goes. She says, I open up the CDC website, basically, and it says vaccines do not cause autism. There is no link between vaccines and autism. But if you look at the fine print in here, autism spectrum disorder, what do they cite? They cite the Institute of Medicine, the 2011 study on autism and vaccines. I'm going to go over this again. This is what that study found. This is the Institute of Medicine's own words that they are quoting and saying, this is our proof. The evidence is inadequate to accept or reject a causal relationship between diphtheria toxoid, tetanus toxoid, or acellular pertussis containing vaccines and autism. That's just one. She said, study after study has debunked this. No. Study after study is showing us that no studies have been done on this topic. You've only looked at one vaccine, the MMR vaccine, out of 16, when it comes to autism. There are 15 other vaccines that have not been through a single study on autism. Diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis being one of them, the Institute of Medicine is pointing out right here. And in case you want to sink your teeth in the MMR vaccine, remember that Dr. William Thompson, who is the head epidemiologist running all the numbers on the MMR autism study, he came forward with 10,000 documents saying we committed scientific fraud. We know the MMR causes autism, and we hid that from the public. So really inconvenient that the only study you point to, Elizabeth Cohen, has a whistleblower that is screaming at the top of his lungs, still working at the CDC, still covered by whistleblower status. That's problematic. But let's stick with DTaP, the one that never got studied. Here's how the debunking works in the world of professional science on television. Television science. Here's how it works. I'm going to put this in the mouth of Stanley Plotkin. Stanley Plotkin being the world's leading authority on vaccines. He has made more vaccines than any human being alive. He is on the board of more vaccine makers companies than any human being alive.
This is an excerpt from the IOM's report, right?
Yes.
Can you read the causality conclusion with regard to whether DTaP and Tdap cause autism?
The evidence is inadequate to accept or reject a causal relationship between diphtheria toxoid, tetanus toxoid, or acellular pertussis containing vaccine and autism.
So the IOM reviewed the available evidence with regard to whether Tdap or DTaP can cause autism, and their conclusion was the evidence doesn't exist to show whether DTaP or Tdap do or do not cause autism, correct?
Yes.
Yes. I don't know what to say. Remember, this is the guy. I just went and found my book on the back. Okay, this book right here. He's the man. He wrote Plotkin's Vaccines. Okay, so he's reading back that the Institute of Medicine is saying they can neither confirm nor deny, which means it could cause autism. It also means it may not cause autism. But Stanley Plotkin feels comfortable because it says that it doesn't. He loves the fact that no study has been done. Now remember, no study has been done, even though, I want to point this out, the DTP vaccine, we're talking about diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis, was the cause of the 1986 Vaccine Injury Compensation Act. The main reason we took liability away from the industry was because the diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis vaccine was causing so many problems. So many people were having seizures and dying, and yes, claiming autism. In fact, right in the beginning, one of the first things that the congressional meetings were supposed to discuss was DTaP and autism. Specifically look at this because a lot of people are claiming that DTaP causes autism. So now this is Plotkin on vaccines. This is Plotkin under oath this year. He went to be deposed because he was going to fight for some kid he thought should be vaccinated, had no idea he was going to do a 9-hour deposition in front of a camera, which we're all very happy about, getting to ask him the questions we always wanted. But here's the point. Since 1986, we knew that thousands of parents were saying the DTaP, I think, caused my child's autism. And now Stanley Plotkin is gloating over the fact that not a single study ever looked at what these parents were saying. Can you imagine how unbelievably frustrating, how infuriating it must be to know that your government, you saw it with your own eyes, you've been a witness, thousands of parents like you have all reported the same thing, and you're all standing there waiting for your government, your health agencies to step up and investigate this, and this guy chuckles in your face saying, well, they've never done the study, and until they do, I'm going to assume what? Here's the debunking from his own mouth. Look what he goes on to say.
If you don't know whether DTaP or Tdap cause autism, shouldn't you wait until you do know, until you have the science to support it, to then say that vaccines do not cause autism?
Do I wait? No, I do not wait, because I have to take into account the health of the child.
And so for that reason, you're okay with telling the parent that DTaP, Tdap does not cause autism, even though the science isn't there yet to support that claim?
Absolutely.
Is that shocking? I mean, I can watch it over and over again, and it blows my mind. So you feel comfortable telling people this DTaP does not cause autism even though the science doesn't exist to make that statement? Absolutely. He says, I have to take into consideration. Do I wait? No, I don't wait. I have to take into consideration the health of the child. You know what you should take into consideration? The hundreds of thousands of parents witnessing the destruction of their child right after the DTaP vaccine, Stanley. That's what you should be taking into consideration if this was science. If this was actually science and we say, hey, there's a signal. That's what we call it, Stanley. It's called a signal. When thousands and thousands and thousands of people report the same thing, that's called a signal. When you have a signal, your health department is supposed to zoom right in there and say, let's immediately start doing studies. We may have a problem. Because remember, everybody, remember CDC, all of us here at Health and Human Services, FDA, it's time for a team meeting, everybody. Now remember, we never did a safety study on any of these vaccines, right? That includes DTaP, okay? I want you all to remember that. We didn't do a safety study because we convinced everybody it would be unethical to do one, right? Okay. So no placebo-based safety study was ever done. We remember that. Now what we said was there'll be a surveillance system afterwards in case there's any problems. So in case we have a signal, we'll jump right on that. But we didn't. We didn't, folks. We didn't. We did not jump on it. Hundreds of thousands of parents complaining about DTaP, and nobody did anything. So there, Elizabeth Cohen, you have it. You know how you debunk it? You lie, and you make false statements. You make assumptions. Elizabeth Cohen, it's an assumption that DTaP does not cause autism. It's an assumption that hepatitis B vaccine does not cause autism. It's an assumption that HIV vaccine does not cause autism. We do not run on faith. We listen to people that are having injuries, and we do the actual science.